this guy, bro. Honestly, we'd all be so much better off if this Des guy just.
That's
what I'm saying, bro.
You
It
know,
would be.
Alright,
Bruce.
you guys get 30 minutes. I'm gonna go do
it's
something
always
after.
the three people we fucking.
Wait, we were
talked
fucking
about.
delaying more?
No, I said you guys get 30 minutes.
Oh.
You're coaching for. What do you mean we get 30? You going somewhere?
I'm gonna go to bed. So,
For like an
anyways,
hour. Oh my
positioning.
God.
You guys get 30 minutes. Like, all right, bro.
Positioning.
You know
Is
what?
it just
At least
us?
2 hours.
A, B,
Yes.
C point positioning.
The real people who need the positioning besides this ABC shit are not here.
Aggro.
Bird.
Neutral.
Aggro, Bagro, and Cagro.
So this is what I call plane positioning. And so in a map setting, it would look like this. Why did I do that?
The
Map
fuck is
setting,
that?
It would.
Buddy made a fucking.
What the fuck are you drawing?
There's a tank.
Wait,
There's like 2 tanks. They're lined up. So
Okay.
there's a
Both
DPS and there's a DPS flanking. So it's with DPS, and then supports will usually be back.
Oh, so
You're playing a corner. So let's just say it's something like this. Tanks, they'll move up. This is the purpose. This is our defense. Let's say you're attacking. Your tanks will be here holding this corner, right? You'll have maybe a DPS here, and then let's say conversely you also have another DPS here, and then your support backline. So this is what we call A, right? In general, especially when you're attacking, when you're defending, ABC becomes a lot more important because with attack, especially at the beginning, there's not really any B or C. So in defense, your A is the furthest position you can go without pretty much suiciding. Like let's say this is their spawn. Very common one is Midtown, that first corner. The very first corner you see is your attacking side. There's a bunch of hallways and a bunch of like areas you can go. One of them could be your B, right? Your B is your backup. If you need to drop back, where do you go? B could also be in the middle of nowhere, but it's a temporary position, right? You may have to full push back to a defensive spot because let's say someone dies. So in that situation, your B might just be, there might not even be a B. It might you just go straight to C, being you just drop fully back. So why is this important? This is very important for, a variety of reasons. If they don't want to play aggressive, want to play neutral, want to play defensive. Great example, like mentioned, if someone dies, you play defensive. If someone on the other team dies, you play aggressive. Generally, you want to play aggressive because the idea of this game is you are trying to capture the point, prevent the other team from getting the point, pushing, etc. So this game, you use, it's an objective-based game. So technically, you could get 90 kills and it doesn't really matter as long as you push the point. So another example would be Spire Islands, the first corner you encounter. Why is it so good on defense to play attack, like a very aggressive position? It's just because you can always drop back. Attacking moves forward, right? You're just trying to hold them in this spot as long as you can. So this is where on defense, you want to use a lot of CDs. CD usage is up, right? Same with attack, right? When you're both in an aggressive spot, so let's say, tank, aggressive, CD usage goes up.
With the Spider Islands position, you're talking about
The first
where the
corner.
the hallway
The first
is, or are you
corner.
talking
No, the
about the
first
building?
where it has the like breakable,
The first
like
corner,
the big breakable.
the first corner, this area. You have your supports,
Oh.
yada 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 yada.
Oh, where it goes.
Is
Ask
right
questions, ask
behind
questions
them,
when I'm
or
done.
are
Ask
you
questions when
talking
I'm
about
done.
under the
Ask questions
bridge?
when I'm done. No, the first corner, literally just the first area. Like the tower's back here. This is the building. This.
So it is the bridge then.
That's
Okay.
under the bridge.
Sure. Anyways, you have your supports and then DPS doing whatever. When you're both engaging in a very aggressive position, so your point A, right? You'll be burning a lot of CDs. A lot of the time, this can turn into like a neutral battle. So there's neutral positioning, but if both teams are aggressive, that might as well just be neutral because you're battling each other. This is where CDs are used. This is where ults are used, etc. Right? When you're defense, your idea is you just use as much as you can to basically hold them here, right? You don't want them to move. That's the purpose. This game is, very defender heavy, so you just want to reduce time. This is what good tank positioning looks like. You are staying in a spot, your team as a whole, as a unit, is using as much shit as they can, so like cooldowns increased, reduced time for the attacking team. And the attacking team, your goal is just get picks. When you're attacking, picks are a method to pretty much reduce the team's resources. So think about it as like a resource game. Let's say you know, you have 100 resources here, 100 resources here. You'll use like, you know, like let's say Loki Rune, use it, so you're minus 10, right? You use, let's just say, you're Loki Rune, you're, you know, down 10, you're at 90. It's a resources game. Getting a pick, let's just say reduces it by another 10, so now you're at 80. The idea here is you're just replenishing the team's resources. So that's where the positioning comes in. Now, when you're on defense, where do you go to point B? Point B is a neutral stance. It's kind of like where you're able to still fire, right? Like you're like a mag, you're pot shotting, but you're still dropping back to cover. That's usually an intermediate step. It's like A, B, C. But this step can honestly be switched. Usually, I just call this like a transitioning phase, where it's like you're going from a very aggro position to a very defensive position, right? But in between here, you're gonna still do stuff. You're not gonna just stand there and do nothing, right? B becomes a little bit more prominent when you're a DPS character, and I'll kind of get into that really briefly. Also, I need to make sure I'm streaming. I am streaming. Cool. So we're gonna go into that nuance now. So pretty much, you go in general very aggressive against each other, right? That's where the neutral battle comes in. Right? A neutral stance for tanks and supports, that's when you are dropping back to a defensive position. DPS, though, it's a little bit more nuanced. So this is where I'll kind of go into some nuance. So each point has their own type, right? There's an aggressive, there's a neutral, there's a defensive positioning. So you can put like an aggro point A. So what would that look like? So let's say you're a Bucky here trying to hook a tank, right? You're in A, right? You're in like the A positioning for your team, as I would call it, right? Where your tanks are, you know, your subs are, right? But what's the difference between being very aggressive, being neutral, being defensive? Being aggro would be you're getting ready to Bucky hook, right? You're using a cooldown. You know, you have to kind of push up a little to try to get that aggressive play, to secure the pick. And a lot of times, a Bucky hook will force out other team resources. It's kind of a trade-off. So, like, let's say, you know, Bucky hook has a cooldown of 12 seconds. Let's say you hook the tank and the Loki has to rune, right? This is, like I said, a cooldown game, right? You use, let's say, a -5 for your resources out of 100. The other team just uses -10, right? So, you know, that's a very big advantage. A neutral position with Bucky would be where you're just shooting, right? You're just blasting into the tanks, right? You're not really doing anything aggressive, per se, but you're just playing neutral, right? If you get a pick, you switch to aggro. If your team gets picked, you switch defensive. This is a very flexible stance. This is where you're just really just shooting. You're not really doing much. And a defense position in point A would be, let's say you get low. Let's say you get hit by a Hela. You'll drop back behind cover, maybe into like the little building, as you know, there's like a tunnel connecting the first corner on Spider Island. You'll maybe go into here and just quickly get healed up by your supports. So this is like a very temporary position, right? You'll go from point A defensive back to neutral. Maybe you'll go for an aggressive play. You'll go back to neutral. And why does this matter? Well, understanding this helps you like realize, okay, what am I doing here? Like, what position do I have to be to do X task? And what are the advantages of each thing? So aggro, you make plays. This is your playmaker zone, right? You're not gonna really get kills just being passive, right? Just playing neutral the entire game in point A. Yes, you're in an aggressive position, as I would call it, but you're not really in an aggressive mindset per se. Playing very defensively can be decent. You know, you're not really going to die. You might occasionally be able to switch to neutral, back to defensive, you know, prolong your survival. But like I said, you're not really going to do much aggressively. You're not going to make many plays. Now, if you're very aggressive and you never really take time to go back to the neutral, go back to the defensive, you just die. Simple as that. Now, let's go to point B, kind of like a transitioning neutral phase. So, like, let's say point A gets overrun because your support dies. Or because, let's say, another DPS, right? They went for aggressive off-angle flank. They die. Now what? You would transition back. But unlike tanks and supports who kind of have the full pushback, right? A lot of DPS characters, let's say you're playing Star-Lord. Yeah, you can really be wherever the fuck you want, right? So this is where there's a variety of things you can do in a neutral transitioning phase. So let's just say this. You're like, you know what? I want to equalize this fight. Aggressive. Whether it being using ult, going on a flank to try to kill a support, or asking your mag, hey, can you bubble me? You're going in. That works. Neutral. You walk back with your team. Defensive. You match to your supports. The position where you drop back determines at point B, essentially, if you're DPS, like, what are you doing? And then, of course, point C is just full defensive. There's this nuance becomes a little bit less of a thing, but you can kind of still be aggressive while in an aggressive like style while defensive, but that doesn't really make too much sense. So it's usually this distinction really only happens when you're A and B, and for B it's mostly for DPS. So for subs and tanks, just focus on like, okay, what the first choice? Am I being aggressive, like neutral, or defensive at this aggressive point? Next.
Since you're erasing shit, real quick. Technically, once you get set on that defensive point, you can start transitioning to more aggressive playstyles, right?
That's called staging.
So, what would like if we're getting dove? Like, what would you call that? Like point positioning wise, like what do we do there? Like subs are getting dove. Like where do we? How do we change that positioning out
Okay.
and fix what we need to do?
We can go.
Some like one person just drop back, or
We can go over that. So let's say we're in point A, right? Your subs. This is.
By the way,
DPS.
can we do single tank just because that's what we always run?
Sure. Doesn't
Yeah.
really matter.
I'm just asking so that it fits.
Here we
That's
go.
true.
Let's just say something like this. Okay. Let's say you have a flanker. Okay. What do you want to do here? So there's a variety of ways you can deal with it. So if it's a solo flank, right? Let's just say it's 1 BP. Understand timing. What is happening? So like I said, there is 3 ways. There's aggro, neutral, and defensive. So if your tanks are playing aggro, let's say they're pushing up, right? During a BP dive. You'll have to have them temporarily, and the team as a whole, go from aggressive to neutral. You are essentially, the value of a diver is, in like a hidden value of it is this, right? You cannot play aggressive if your supports are being dove, right? This is no good, because then look what happens, right? They're going to be here, your team's now up here, your tank's out of LOS, things go bad. So that's something you have to communicate with the team. You have to play a little bit more neutral. This does not mean, though, you have to go defensive. This just means you just go a little bit back. This doesn't even mean you actually go back necessarily. Just don't
means
push.
Stay
Just
still.
Stay.
Dang, damn it.
Stay where you are. Like this is like just stay here. Right.
And then one of the DPS looks back
Next.
if needed.
Next, with this flanker, what do you want to do with support? If it's solo, seal each other. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. The cooldowns will eventually run out. They can't kill you. Some healers can literally just out heal it also completely. If you're Rocket, you can run. If you're Invis, you can dash away. If you're CND, you can place a bubble and just walk up to your DPS and heal them. You will live. Let's say it's a duo. Let's say Psy, Cap. Very common one. Now what? Now this is where things a little bit change. So 1 DPS, they go from aggressive, or they go from neutral to defensive. This is where 1 will have to help. If usually the DPS will deal with the DPS flank. So let's say you have a Bucky. A Bucky is not nearly efficient on a Cap, right? But against a Psylocke, who's a little more squishy, a few shots, and they'll generally run out. The tanks stay neutral. They don't move. They can go defensive if the pressure is very hard on the front line. Then as a whole, you have to, adjust your positioning, go to point B. But if the tank pressure isn't too threatening, then you will stay neutral here. The other DPS stay neutral or play aggressive, while the other one goes defensive. And then both supports either go defensive or stay neutral. Or in very interesting scenarios, play a little bit further up. For the reason that now, let's say, let's say do like a hard flank. Let's say they dive, like, from a very aggressive offing. Like, I'm talking really aggressive, like a full, Psylocke right here, just beaming you guys. Well, if your DPS switch place with you, you guys go up, Psylocke really can't kill you. Especially if it's like a Bucky no more. Or like a Bucky Hella. Or like a Bucky whatever. Right? That's very difficult to... that's very difficult to kill. So that's kind of where the nuance comes in, right? Okay, what type of flank is it? Is it like, like kind of like an envelopment, right? Like you see how here, these two are going from the sides? Then you just have a DPS, take care of the DPS, right? Let's say, maybe they get a few shots in. That's not enough to kill you guys, generally. Right? This is where pinging comes into play. Be like, hey, Psylocke, flanking this way, right? Have the DPS match. And then there should be no issue. Let's say this is a Cap. A solo cap will not kill you guys. Usually, let's say the Bucky kicks out the Psylocke. This will happen 99.9% of the time. Right? The 0.01 being the Bucky can't aim. And you don't heal him. And he doesn't know how to use any buttons. And he's at 1 health. And he's also blind. And deaf.
Can I kill her?
If all this happens, then you're screwed. But 99.9% of the time, you're fine. Cap dives. You guys heal each other. Bucky takes, about 3 seconds, 4 seconds to knock the Psylocke out, right? They're going to dive back to their team. And then they handle the cap. Or the other DPS can also turn around and handle the cap as well. Hivit is very annoying. Because generally, you can heal your tank. You can heal your other support. You have a shit ton of cap. Statistically, can't kill a CND through a bubble, or through Invis shield, because he doesn't do enough damage. Or
One thing with this.
Luna clap, or literally any CD. So that's why you just use them. That's where the value of dive comes out. You use these CDs, but at the same time you're wasting their time. So this is how this would kind of work. If they are full flanking, like I am talking, you see a DPS, 2 DPS just come from way back, that's where you kind of have to switch positions. Because generally, let's say an Emma Strange, you guys have a mag. I mean, you could just walk a little forward, right? Your DPS drop back to fight them. And that's it, because now you're further away from the threat, and now your DPS who can help you are closer to the threat, and your tank, as long as you're behind your tank, right? Let's say theoretically they have a 3-man dive. Let's say a very aggressive dive. So 99.9% of the time, this also just means they have a tank diving. Because let's say if they have a magic DP Psylocke, then you should win regardless, because that comp kind of sucks. So the frontline pressure really won't be there. It's non-existent. You can match. If it's that big of an issue, your team drops back to point B, the intermediate step. This is kind of where B becomes a thing. Like I said, usually you skip B, right? Go straight to defensive. But you can actually kind of play neutral in this situation, just because of the fact that there's 3 people diving, right? Your DPS go way in front to match the DPS in the tank. The support's kind of in the middle. But the DPS will keep pushing back into point B, where they're kind of the front line now, facing the dive. Your tank will be here, and then the support's here. And it kind of inverts it, if that makes sense. While the tank can kind of fight here, the tank's so close you can still pot shot them back. It's also usually just 1 tank, which isn't going to really do much, right? The DPS will handle this dive much faster than they can actually push up. And then when they get kicked out, right, this is where cooldown rotation comes in. They'll have no cooldowns, right? So that's they're 50 cooldowns while you guys are 80, right? Because you'll use cooldowns as well. Cooldowns for you guys will be gone. But these people are wasting time getting back into position. So that's where all that comes in. Next portion. This is mostly for DPS.
Before we go on to that, for the healers, if you are getting the one being dove, rely on your other healer to heal you calm that, but you have to heal forward still. You have to get your DPS who are helping you, or the tank who's still holding the front line. Unless you are getting duo dove and they're on both healers, you both do not need to be looking at each other. Am I wrong?
No.
Okay, thank you.
So there are 4 distinctions I want to make. There is a off angle. So what I mean by off angle, this can happen in any position, right? So when you're dynamic DPS players, so let's say you're playing Namor, right? This guy, mostly people think you play defensively, you play in like position C, position B, or like position A, but like a very defensive way next to the supports. Like you can, right? This is fine. Actually, a lot of the times you will if you have like a Psylocke with you, or like a Star-Lord. But let's say even a more Bucky. You're running Namor and Bucky. This one's dynamic. This one can play any position. This one really can't. Kind of like you're kind of condoned to points, right? I mean, you're not gonna really see a Bucky flank. You can maybe see him off angle occasionally, but it's not as threatening as many other characters. So, what do you do in the situation if you're playing one of those dynamic characters that can kind of like disregard point positioning? Well, you kind of categorize it into this now. Off angle. Well, I mean, sorry, Namor can play these points, right? But then he has access to these. And that's what I mean by dynamic. You can play in any of these points. Off angle. Let's use point A, for example. Their supports are right here. Their tank is right here. In Spider Islands, of course, there's the bridge. But I'm not even going to count that. There is a whole other area you can go behind. This would be, I would consider, a flank. You can go through the whole building, go behind them, and beam them. This is
now let's say
yes.
let's say like a neutral fight. They just die before you get there. What do you do?
You have to communicate with the team that you're gonna go for a flank. The flank is the
Usually
longest for
just-
staging. It's the longest staging time, but the highest reward. And
Yeah, but let's say you
Also-
flank and then the other team's like hard pushing. What do you do?
99% of the time that will not happen, and if your team's somehow getting ran over, that is your team's issue. Because in a neutral fight, a single DPS being gone will not actually will not like cause your team to really push back. Like if they do, it's mostly another
only-
systemic issue, being that your supports are being dove, or your other DPS died, something like that. That this will not happen. That will not happen.
Okay.
So, this, like I said, highest stage, highest reward. And let's say that does happen once, right? Then, if for some reason your presence somehow, through some way, is actually affecting it, then don't flank. You can take off angles. What would that look like? Well, let's say there's a roof on this building, right? This is a building. There's a roof. You are still in line with your team's point A positioning, right? You're kind of playing like the neutral zone. Just go on the roof and then hit people from below. From above, I mean. That would be a neutral flank. A neutral off angle, right? You have like flanks, right? You're kind of like, you have no way to really get out. I mean, unless you're like a Psylocke or like a Star-Lord or like a BP, right? If you have those characters, then this becomes, like actually like pretty low risk. But for like a Namor, this is really high risk. This is very safe, no matter who you're playing, because you can just drop down. Your healers can actually still see you. Like if they just back up, they see you. Invisible can put a shield. Cloak can easily throw a bubble to you. Rocket can just outright hit you. Luna can just outright hit you. So this is very safe, right? You're in a very safe spot. But of course, the reward isn't as high. Like yes, it's easier to hit them, but it's a lot easier. You get a little bit less value because they're actually just looking this way. Like they have to heal their tanks, right, that are in front. But they just have to look up, ping it. Someone shoots you and you have to drop down. With the flank, they have to do a whole like reverse. Like everyone has to push back. That's the value of a full flank, right? Like I said before, theoretically in this situation, DPS should push back while supports kind of push up. This forces like a kind of a neutral position. It's not like you really can't be aggressive with this because now your pressure builders, your aggressive players, the DPS, are the furthest back to deal with you. Now, what's an aggressive flank? This one is one where it's like in between these two. Sorry, an aggressive off angle. The building over here, for example, with that health pack, all that stuff. Or like, like the garage area right here, right? Yada, yada, yada. That would be you go all the way here in between. Or you go on top of it, right? Or you go like wherever the hell you want, pretty much. That isn't a full flank. I kind of define a flank as like the DPS have to take care of you, right? Like they have to really take care of you. And that being like almost any DPS can take care of you on a flank angle, right? Like you're usually on the ground or like very limited high ground. With an off angle, you might be on top of a building. You still have cover. You still have line of sight of your supports. Like this one's a little bit more aggressive because it's actually still a little bit easier to get you. You have very good line of sight on pretty much everyone. Like on top of the roof, you're kind of just like condoned to like a small FOV, while here you're just condoned to the entire field. It's a little bit harder to get the supports in this instance, but you have better view. You can actually pick up DPS easier, yada yada yada, right? Now this is kind of the in between. So you have medium risk, you have medium reward, and you generally still get a lot of attention. This can happen on any point. You could be defensive. You could be all the way back here with your team, like your team, you know, like let's say this is your team, because a support died. You can still technically off angle. You can still technically flank, right? This is where staging is, right? You don't have to necessarily fight them, but you could kind of stage yourself, being you prepare for the engage. So like let's say before, like while your team's dropping back, right? You put yourself in a position, let's say in like the stairs, like that room with the stairs, or like in the room with the health pack as you push back on Spider Islands. You know, you get kind of like, you sit here, right? You wait. Once you see your team kind of push up and engage, then you pop out and start doing some damage from like a off angle. And there's, I guess, one last one, being a very passive off angle. That would be like, you're like, I don't know, you move like right here, and you just do some damage, and then you can easily just drop back. Like, it's very limited movement. There's like no staging. There's like pretty much no risk. I mean, besides just getting fucking beamed, but there's a lot of points where you actually can just do this, and there's like some weird cover, like a pillar. Your healers can still see you. You just pretty much, you're just positioning yourself in a way to get better view. That's literally all it is. Whether it be DPS or supports, because a lot of times you can see the tank in any position, but the prized targets are the DPS and supports as a DPS. Okay. Now, what does this have to do with comps? So characters play positioning based on, their build. So I'll just give some like very notable examples. So Cap, for example, is a tank. You are always aggressive, pretty much, right? Like the supports are here, you're right here, fucking diving from out of nowhere, right? You have to play around this, right? Let's say you have a Cap, right? And then you have like a Mag. Your Mag, who's up here, has to be a little bit more, wishy-washy with how he moves, right? He kind of has to be willing to move a little bit more, because let's say it's a Emma and a Mag, right? A little bit more frontline pressure. So you'll have to be willing to transition from A to B to C very quickly, and then reverse back to B to A when your Cap dives. So I'll give you an example. You guys are fighting. Mag gets, a little bit low HP. So he transitions to B. But the Cap's diving. He gets healed up to like, let's say 500. So now he can push up and go back to A. Now the Cap leaves. He gets pushed back to B. Now the Cap dives. He goes back up to A. Etc, etc, etc. That's timing. This is how you time it with your dive as a tank. Same thing, BP. Dive, supports, no heal tank. Mag, go up. BP, leave. BP, wait 8 seconds before dive. Mag, down 1 DPS. Mag, push back. After 8 seconds, Mag, push up, BP dive. Cycle, cooldown, cycle. Same thing, supports. BP, dive. Support, push up with tank. BP, gone, 8 seconds, support, back up. Mag, back up. That's it. What if you're playing into poke? So let's just kind of change this up. Let's say you're in a map like Midtown Second Point with the big fucking fat circular pillar. Objectives right here. The tanks are right here. And you're playing against a Hela who's on high ground. So, optimal range, right? Hela is very good into fighting people from long distances. This is a very defensive playstyle. Like this is technically a flank off angle, but of course you're in kind of a defensive. This is like a very neutral, very passive off angle. Because I mean, your tank's right here, your supports are right here, right? A lot of these times, these characters are a little bit more difficult to dive, right? It's like, you know, diving them is a little bit more difficult compared to like a Hela who's, let's just say, literally taking the long way around diving your team, right? That's a little bit more difficult. So here you have two options. DPS tries. Some will succeed. I mean, this is impossible. This is very possible to contest out, right? You can also outpoke, play the neutral battle. Let's see another Hela fighting them. Or you'll have to play a little bit more defensively to kind of match the tempo of the other team, right? If they're playing, let's say, Hela Hawkeye. Let's say a Hawkeye joins the Hela up here, right? The logical answer here would be dive, right? You full dive. You kind of have to get him off this. But you really can't play neutral because then you die. So you kind of have to play defensive, right? Play point A, but a little bit defensive. Like, maybe don't poke your head out, right, as a tank. Be like, all right, pop out, shot, go back, go out, shot, go back. DPS, that would look like, you know, you're matching them. Really just turns into who can get the most pressure in a defensive battle, right? Now this, I don't suggest doing. It's much better to just do it, you know, aggressively and deal with them because that's what they're bad against. But for sports, this would also mean being very defensive. Like, don't be out in the open. Probably make sure you're behind cover or you're not within line of sight of the Hela or Hawkeye. So, like I was mentioning yesterday, every character has like a very ideal range. So you kind of like use that to your advantage. Okay, so let me illustrate this out. So you have A, B, C, and generally with the A you have your aggro, neutral, defensive, and then this one I'll also add this one. C being you're pretty much just defensive. So what would this look like for X character? So this applies to every character. So like let's say your Luna versus Invis, right? Luna has much better range. Invis does not. So what will be optimal position for Luna to play in? Invis would be a little bit more optimal playing here, right? You're not gonna, I mean, if your tanks are here, on Luna, you can kind of be here, heal them. But on Invis, you're not gonna be here because your heal won't reach. So you have to be a little bit further up. Now, when you're in this situation as this support, you will become the default comm / ping. Now, what does this mean? You have better field of view. You see the entire field. So, if you see a BP staging, getting ready for dive, right? The Invis might see it, but let's say we could really easily change this up. Let's say he's approaching from this. Invis doesn't see it. You do. So that's where this becomes a little more important to communicate. You are also going to be kind of the shot caller. Like, you're also going to be the one, of course, usually asking for heals because the other one, they really can't see you. You communicate with your tanks. Okay, hey, we're waiting Dove. Play a little back. Wait for him to go out. Then play up. This works for all the characters. Let's go to a DPS. Let's go to Torch. Flyer. This character kind of plays these two realms because really don't do any damage from all the way over here, right? Let's say the tanks were over here and by some miracle you could get line of sight of them. You're not going to kill them. You do damage here. You would definitely do damage here. Now this might not be the best since if they run like 2 hit scans then you're dead, but this is where understanding your matchup becomes very key. Like let's say they have a Iron Fist and a Moon Knight, then this becomes viable, right? This is where aggro on your point A becomes the most viable. Same with B, right? B would just be you're dropping back temporarily to C, right? You still want to get maximum damage. So you would play aggro still. Tanks. Let's go to character like Mag. Mag, you will generally play very neutral. Defensive, occasionally aggro, but this will waste CDs. Neutral and defensive for the reason that you have about a solid 20-meter range. That is pretty good. You are still able to get damage on DPS who are playing in a aggro and neutral position. Really can't get much damage to the subs, which is why you would want to be willing to use CDs, cooldowns, to try to push up a little bit, kind of transition to the aggro state, to pot shot the subs. Of course, you will transition to aggro if you guys get a pick. So this really only happens when you're willing to use cooldowns, try to secure a pick, bail out other teams' picks. Like for example, like I said, Loki. Your bubble cooldown on Mag is 12 seconds versus Loki's 30 seconds of Rune. So which was more valuable? Well, this one. If you force this out, you have the upper advantage. Now, what does it look like if your team gets picked? So like I mentioned, that's where you go to point C. So what does this look like in the grand scheme of things? Well, things change the game. You have to understand your comp. The number one thing is understand your comp, understand the other team comp. Let's say, I'll give you like a very hypothetical comp, very obvious answer. Of course, a lot of things will be more nuanced. But a lot of the times, let's say, us, right? We run a very, I can kind of give us a very good example comp. So we have a Mag, we have a BP, we have a Bucky, we have a Storm. We have a Luna, we have a Invis. This is probably
This feels like something I've seen before.
This is a very common comp we run, right? So how would we play into a comp like Mag, Emma, Hela, Punisher, Luna, CNT? What would this look like positioning wise? Well, we have a dive, right? So this is going to be an aggro, right? This is your flank. This is someone who is not even in point A. They're in what I just call point fucking Z. They're just off doing their own thing. This isn't a character who really relies on point positioning. Bucky. They'll be in any of your points. This is the DPS for a point positioning. You'll be generally very you're very dynamic at the points. You can use your hook for an aggro play. You can just shoot for a neutral, and then when you need to get healed, you can play defensive. Storm. This is a character kind of same as Bucky. Very much point positioning, but into this comp with double hit scan, you're never going to be aggressive. You're always going to play neutral or defensive. Luna Invis. Neutral defensive support at given points due to range. Aggro when getting a pick. Invis is a little bit more aggro, neutral, with heals limited range. You have your push, you have your pull, also limited range. you're not really going to be ever like super defensive. Like you can drop back to B or to C, but at point A, you're not usually going to be the furthest one back. That's what I mean by defensive. When you're a defensive point A player, you'll be the furthest one back. A neutral means you're kind of in the middle, and the aggressive one is the one who's the furthest up. Now again, that doesn't necessarily mean Mag's always going to be aggressive, right? Tanks are generally almost always the furthest one up. This usually refers to the DPS support backlines. Magneto's aggressive would just be you're crossing the tanks. So this is you, these are the tanks. You're crossing them to get a pick. Neutral means you are in front. And then DPS means you're giving them movement. So into this. This is a very common comp we go against. Usually a hit scanner who's pretty good from long range. Usually, a double tank. And then usually some other character. Now, how would you analyze this and kind of think about how you want to position? So if I was the Magneto, you have to play a little bit less aggressive. You're playing against 2 tanks. You're going to be in kind of a neutral defensive stance for most of the game. Especially with the Hela Punisher. Those are characters who are very high damage. And they're very sustained damage. Right? A lot of DPS, dives. A cooldown cycle. Right? Dive idea is high damage for 1 second. And then you do no damage basically for like another 8. These characters, they'll do mid damage. But then no cycle. BP, you're the aggressive one. So, in higher ranks, the Punisher would be played defensive / neutral, while your Hela would be played very aggressively. Here, most of them just play neutral defensive. BP has the job of essentially making them keep that playstyle, right? Because all DPS players will eventually go take one of the aforementioned off angles or a flank. 99% of the time, it's an off angle because Hela can't really full flank. This is a no bueno. The job is for BP is basically just don't let this happen. This should never happen. If the Hela can never get in a position to actually kill your subs, right? Then Mag just playing neutral and defensive doesn't really change. You really don't move. Because let's just say you're playing here the entire time. The Emma and Mag on the other team really can't move, right? If you're willing to slowly walk back, just slowly walk back, then they're not really gonna have much time. This is where it becomes just pretty much just becomes ults. Who uses ults better? And even if the attacking team uses ults better, let's say they're attacking, then you still waste a lot of time. This is good. This is what you want. And if you notice as the DP that the other team is playing very passively, they're not really going for an off angle, well then that's where you can punish the supports. And this is a winning matchup 80% of the time. Now, the losing matchup is the BP can't handle this. And there's a Hela beaming our supports 90% of the game. So we have to waste cooldowns. A support dies. And everyone has to play very defensively. This is not good. Now, you're just constantly dropping back. There's no neutral. There's never a time to ult. You're not really wasting time ever. So, you lose this 90% of the time. This is why this comp, for example, is very bad. The Bucky, as a character, is generally, you can play aggressive. That's with your hook, usually. Right? This is just 1 cooldown. Usually you're playing neutral. You're shooting. You don't really. The only weakness of Bucky is he really can't contest the off anglers. This is a little bit more difficult, especially versus characters who outrange him. So this character becomes obsolete in this situation. And Storm, well, we're never gonna have a 1v1 with a Hela. That doesn't really make sense. So this is obsolete. So now our triple DPS comp becomes useless, useless, useless versus just a single character. And with Luna, an off-angling Hela is especially bad because you're already in a neutral defense position. Hela, who's playing very aggressive on an off-angle, it's really easy to kill because you're generally isolated. Like I said before, this is you at Luna, this is your invis, and this is the rest of your team. If the Hela's right here, or right here, then you're dead.
Brother, you can erase something sometime. This is a clusterfuck.
It might be time for erasing.
So,
You might have to re-go over that last thing you said because genuinely I could not tell what the fuck
Couldn't follow that.
it was. I could not follow the writing or example at all.
I got it though. I mean, if hell is like high ground.
Oh, yeah,
position, you're
Hela's
Luna,
high
you're
ground
kinda
off
fucked,
flanking.
because we can't.
You're fucked. You can't drop
yeah.
back. You can't do anything. But I could not see what he was trying to draw.
that's it. That's all I
It's
drew.
not the little X's. Yeah, it was just that.
Okay.
So, how do you fix this?
Vertical?
You change. Shocker, right?
Switching. Never heard of that.
This is very shocking news to a few people.
Gasp.
But to what? Well, someone who's aggressive and plays in a very short range. So, AKA.
Wouldn't another way to counter that just be playing poke and diffing that Hela off of the area?
Phoenix?
Okay, who the fuck are you drawing to there? Who's the third thing? Lemon? And you, Unk?
Venom.
The one next to Strange. Left of
Hulk.
Strange.
Hulk?
Cap.
That.
Green.
I'm sorry. That does not look like Hulk.
Okay, I fear, FB that one's a skill issue. I could read that just fine.
Brother, I am not a doctor. I don't read doctor writing.
All right, bro. Okay.
As you can see, you have a.
Why are we putting quotes on some? Like, maybe are they like
These
maybes?
are like
They're
maybes.
maybes, the
Okay,
question
okay.
marks.
Okay.
These are quite a good variety, and you can kind of see where the maybes come in. Torch, I mean, if you're right next to them, you actually kill the Hela faster. So this is you also have very good survivability. So this is why I think Torch is also meta. Is by many tier lists, many pros. He's actually banned very often.
Positioning, not meta.
He's banned very often. Adam is it's basically Hela with heals, so probably actually win this. There's a lot of options, right? This is just to deal with the Hela, right? This is to deal with an aggressive off-angler. Very defensive characters. Aggressive off-angle. Characters who don't really follow ABC positioning. That's how you defeat this. And conversely, for you guys, let's say Dire is a Hela on an off angle in the middle of fuckland nowhere. You know what I mean? Like, well, how do you kill him? What's his counter? Well, if a Psylocke comes up, well, he's not winning that 90% of the time. He's just dead. Right? Namor has a decent chance against him. Because he's kind of mid-range. Hela's very long range, I would say. I mean, that's kind of where it becomes neutral. But Namor has squids. Namor has a bubble. And generally, with the off angles, right, depending on the type of off angle, if it's a very aggressive one or if it's a straight up flank, like Dire sometimes does, Namor gets healed, Hela doesn't. So, you can do with what you want with this information. Now, how do you be aggressive cops? Let's say they're running a very aggressive Cap, Psi, Venom dive, like I said. Position yourself as such that if they're all diving at once, have the DPS meet them, and have the supports kind of in between the tank. Because I mean, the one tank's putting pressure? I mean, you see how this wouldn't work really. Like you're not gonna die here. Like you're actually really safe, and you still have really good access to your team because they're right next to you. So you see how this works. Lastly, in this situation, kind of like a very unique one, just have, I mean, if you have a tank, if you have one tank, if you have two tanks, you actually just steamroll them. Like, this becomes, this is the ideal scenario. You have two tanks. Let's say you have an Emma and you have a Mag. And this is like a Mag Restraint. Emma grabs him. What can Mag do? Boom! Run them over. That's it. And then they die. And then you just keep walking. Even if your DPS die, they have no supports, they have no tank, and it's just 3 dives. And guess what they have to do? They have to leave. Right? And you see the perspective now. Oh, you're down both your DPS. They're down their tank and their 2 supports. And they're not going to take a fight until they respawn. And by the time they dive you again and take another fight, your DPS are back, and this doesn't, then you just hold. Right, this is a very big defensive hold. You can see how you win this 99.9% of the time. Let's say you have 3 DPS. 2 DPS can hold long enough. How do you turn this battle into something that's winnable? You have a DPS dive them. 2 DPS versus 3 flanks, especially if it's like a Bucky, you know, it's like the Bucky Wolf. Or like a Bucky Punisher. They're not really gonna go anywhere, because like Psylocke can just get hooked, can get uppercut. Cap probably will get blown up by your shotgun. Same with Venom. Right? I mean, even if your DPS dies, your solo DPS, I mean, who's dealing with them? Right? As they're diving. What the other team doesn't really do much. So they just kind of kill everyone. And even if they don't kill, the other team has to use cooldowns to heal each other. So your one tank just kills them. And then you win. This is why you'll really never see, like, on paper, right? Like, let's say an Iron Fist, BP, Hulk, Venom dive. Makes 0 sense at all, actually. As a matter of fact, I can very quickly just illustrate my point with, I think Fruit's account is unprivated. Let's have this. You can really see why this would work, because they had a Mag, Spider-Man, Venom, and Cap dive, and then yeah, Fruit died occasionally, or Loki sucked, but I mean he died occasionally, but
I will say that game particularly, like I was getting farmed, literally just farmed on Luna, but the swap made it a lot more manageable.
Oh, of course.
Like I died like first like 10 minutes of that game, not even 10 minutes, like 5 minutes.
Even-
I died like 4 times, and then it was
Even-
just nothing after that.
Even if you got farmed, then you had 8 deaths.
Yeah.
Wait, you can actually check what, like, by clicking on fruit what the deaths were.
Can you?
Okay.
I was on it as longer.
So-
but
On Luna.
So,
I got farmed real bad, bro.
I mean, let's say you died 9 times.
I ulted and swapped.
That's 3 people diving you for 1 character
Mhm.
to get this, this, and this,
Could do that.
and this.
All right, hello. I'm back. I'm sorry I was not
No
here.
issue. So you see now how this would work. This.
So wait, what happened? What did you guys talk about now?
Poke comps and how to
Poke,
deal with it
okay.
because we fail a lot. Kind of the characters we need to work on, stuff like that.
Okay.
Positioning against dive. Sorry.
But now you kind of like see my perspective on dive and why I think like these full dive comps, for example, are actually kind of dog shit. Like yeah, we lost, but
Oh wait, I think you didn't do my stats also. Let me see.
He's an FBEs either, so he still has some stuff to do with that one.
oh yeah. But so like kind of looking at this now, you guys see the perspective, right? Like dive. Really, isn't that scary? Right? Like not really. I mean, if they're a good Psy, right? Like a really good Psy, or like a really good Star Lord, or like a really really good BP. Sometimes their timing
We
is too
play no
good.
more.
Sometimes their timing
Or
is
Cap
too good.
plus one of those.
You know, their timing's gonna be excellent, and you just die, right? That's fine. But in theory, if you play your cards right, you don't really die. It's just more of you lose CDs, right? But the rate, right? Like let's say you're on defense, or even you're on attack. Attack, dive becomes weaker in my opinion, for very obvious reasons, right? Like, okay, you attack when you're on defense and you're diving. It's like, yeah, that's fine, but you stagnate their push, yeah. But like with defense, I said when you're diving on attack, if you get a kill, usually 90% of the time, they have to walk a long way to respawn, or it's like a much bigger deal because that's where you get the staggers. If you're diving an attacking team, 90% of the time they can just leave, right? And I mean, of course, it changes as where the point is. Like, of course, if it's closer to actually being capped, then your spawn room for defense is shorter. But getting it there in the first place is the difficult part, right? And that's like the point that's actually getting distance. That's where dive becomes really shit on defense. So, kind of think about that in mind, right? Is it worth it to use a cooldown when you respawn in 5 seconds? 15, but risk reward.
But
Generally
honestly,
done.
I'd say we should really just have to play like games as a team to like kind of understand how we're going against these matchups. We really just have to play like.
Anyways, that is. Any questions? Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
So now, what does this look like for you guys in the grand scheme of things? How do you get better at positioning? It's a game by game, comp by comp, map by map basis. And how do I improve? Well, a lot of maps you can come up with your own ABC positioning depending on your character, right? A lot of these characters operate on that, with the exception of, Psylocke, Star-Lord, etc. Even so, those characters play in ABC, because they're dynamic. They can play whatever the fuck they want. BP's like the only real character, like Spider-Man, where it's like there's like no ABC. Like, this becomes just completely irrelevant, because you're not going to ever see a BP behind the tank chucking spears. That doesn't make sense. So, with those exceptions, Every map has an A, B, C, and at each of these points, there's an aggressive, neutral, defensive. So what does that look like in every map? That is what you guys decide. How do you play? Do you play more aggressive? Do you play more neutral? Do you play more defensive? What's the character? Are they better neutral or better defensive? Better aggressive? Do you off-angle a lot? Do you flank a lot? How would you position it? And in a lot of maps, you know, this game's corners. It's just like, let's say, like, I'll give you like the Spiral Islands. Corner. You drop back. Corner. Right? Next one. Like, there's a fucking weird circle you play around. There's the big house. There's a fucking thing. It's a corner. Fucking corners. Just that's the game. There's corners. Right? Every map is corners. So, where would you play it? Well, it's very consistent. You very much just play in the same spots. I mean, there's not much nuance. I mean, of course, I think that's why domination's a little bit harder, right? It's very evenly split, but that's where you kind of play chokes. Like, you know, this is the entrance. There's usually a corner behind it. So the team comes through the corner. They play, this is, you know, where things happen. It's all the same. It is generally all the same. On point, it'll be, you know, a little bit different. Like the Hell's Heaven, weird fucking point with the walls. Kind of like this. There's the point. This is weird. I don't know what the fuck. This is just where positioning kind of becomes like, okay, A, you play here, play behind any cover. There's like that weird table thing. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. This might give you better line of sight. Your B might be, you know, the steps. And then your C is the weird fucking purple, like, tube thingies. Right? You see how this progression works. Now, of course, you have to determine a case-by-case basis. How do I play this? Aggressive, defensive, neutral. Aggressive when you're, you know, wanting to push up, gain some space. Neutral. You stay here. Defensive. There's a Hela beaming you. Play right here. Peek. Use cover. So if I were to look really quick, and I think that's actually why we all are utter dog shit at Hell's Heaven, because this positioning is a lot harder to determine than Corner Simulator. And I feel like this is a very, you know, like, this is everyone, right? I think if you look at, even like, what is it, my win rate on like one of the accounts? Let me see, did I play even much?
Let you private it then ball back because you won't be able to find it. Oh, never mind.
Yeah, I'm not even that good on Hell's Heaven. What the fuck? Anyways.
Oh, wait, let me see.
It's 3
Tyson
games.
has a 0% win rate on Hell's Heaven.
I am being dead. That's not a typo, by the way. I'm being dead serious. This is also a very small sample size, but you get my
That
point.
sucks on Spider Islands.
Wait, what website is that? Marvel Rivals.
It's Marvel Rivals Meta. Rivals Meta.
Let's,
Okay.
and I can look at the
Very
overall.
different.
Go to season 2. Just go to season 2 on it.
I also could
I'll go
use
see
this.
mine.
Let me see.
That's season 3.
It's season 3.
He can't count, so I guess.
You suck at Burning T'Challa? And Spider Islands?
Spider Islands, I have FPS issues, so
Oh
this actually
my
makes a lot
God.
of sense. But some of my KD is always very high, so I don't know. Very weird. But also probably just.
I'm
because
bad at the maps I like, evidently. Once I found the things,
But-
I was like, yeah.
You see what I mean? Like I feel like these maps, the maps I highlighted, probably look at it and be like, okay, hey man, we suck here. Why? Morocco. I don't think I have to tell you. You all know your positioning is pretty bad on Morocco. You know that first point with the weird fucking overpass?
Yes.
We don't know where to position. I'm saying we as in also me sometimes. And like this is a generalization, but I feel like it's very
Kinda
true.
weird.
It's weird. Yes, I agree.
Well,
So that's
very
usually
true.
you want to play
Fucking
that
odd.
high ground point, but
Then
we
everybody
always
just
call out that we're
LOSs.
dropping, and then one person drops. The
I do
other
think we
people
dropped
don't.
too early on that map, though. I will say.
And then another one,
True.
Midtown. This one's Corner Simulator. I actually don't know where the Midtown, like, sucky suck comes from. If I'm being honest. Like, I think...
Shit on Hell's Heaven.
I feel like we don't fight for high ground enough. In
Oh, I am shit on Hell's Heaven. We're all shit on Hell's Heaven.
Wait, let me see. Wait,
We're
look.
buns.
I'll show you. On that stream. This one. Look,
I'm very average. Well, let me see.
stock shit.
Oh my god! Holy
Uh,
shit, we suck. What the fuck?
go to season 2.5.
That's alright. Wait, how do you do it? Okay.
That's still pretty bad, I'm being honest. Oh, Hell's Heaven,
Yeah.
you're okay. Okay, you're okay on it.
Okay, I'm not that bad.
Krakoa, GG's.
Cool, which one is it?
We need to add him
Domination.
and
I will add it.
Honestly, my Midtown isn't terrible. My worst one is Araco by far.
Give me a sec.
most everybody's here.
I'm good on all domination maps besides Hell's Heaven, which is a 46.
Jesus Christ.
See, my favorite
Well,
is Convoy,
I'm
and I'm
so-
apparently worse on Convoy. I suck
I'm
on
so-
Convoy.
I
Yeah.
hate Yggdrasil Path. I think I know why.
I love it.
Oh, I love that map.
I love that
I
map.
love you yourself.
Yeah, you guys can love
I
it, but
love
it's
that.
also Bucky
It's
and
Bucky
Wolf Heaven.
Hotel.
It's Bucky and
Hotel.
Wolf fucking love.
I will also show you guys. I am
What?
unironically not trolling about Tyson's win rate on Hell's Heaven.
That is so funny.
No,
How many
no,
games
no,
is
no.
that?
9.
Wait,
Oh, damn.
why was I
Nine?
good on Royal Palace? I hated that fucking map. Why was I actually good on it?
But honestly, on Yggdrasil Path, I have a better KD than some of my higher win rate maps. The
Wait,
fuck?
why was I really good on that fucking Royal Palace? Why did I have a 70% win rate on it?
What the hell?
What the fuck?
So I think domination is the big contention we have. I mean, that's 3 of the maps, so we probably should be getting better at this, right? I feel like as a whole, let's see. We suck at Hell's Heaven. We suck at Hell's Heaven. We suck at Hell's Heaven. We suck at Hell's Heaven.
Here,
No.
Des, I'm gonna put it in the general here. This is just my shit whenever you want to put it in.
Yeah.
Twin, I could just look your profile up.
Republic.
So,
Oh,
that is
wait, is this
all-
season?
this is season 2.5.
Yes.